This time on episode 489 of Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D., we discuss the Loki Season 2 Episode 4, Heart of the TVA, and weekly Marvel Studio news, including upcoming MCU film delays, and Kevin Feige finally answering whether Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is MCU canon or not.
This podcast was recorded during the 2023 SAG-AFTRA strike. Without the labor of the actors currently on strike, the series being covered here would not exist.
I'm Josh Liston from On the Bubble Podcast, an oral history of television fandom, part of the Gonna Geek Network, just like the show you're checking out now. Shows on the network are individually owned, and opinions expressed may not reflect others. Find other awesome geeky shows at GonnaGeekNetwork.com.
You have been granted clearance by director Alfonso Mack Mackenzie. Stand by for a S.H.I.E.L.D. debriefing. All information to be discussed here is classified and may only be discussed among agents granted clearance by the S.H.I.E.L.D. director.
Now it's time for a scheduled debriefing. I'm Agent Michelle.
I'm Agent Chris.
And I'm producer of the show, Director SP. Welcome to Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. The show's recorded on Saturday, October 28th, 2023, live from the Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. studios and broadcast We're Not Sure Anymore wide. Come and join us on our live chat as we record at GonnaGeek.com/live. And if you didn't already catch on to it, we like talking about Marvel.
Because of a wondrous hot chocolate machine.
If you'd like to talk to us about a wondrous hot chocolate machine, you could head on over to our website at legendsofshield.com.
If you'd like to talk to us about the last time you had hot cocoa from a machine, you can leave us a message at 844-THE-BUS-1. That's 844-843-2871.
If you're willing to share your favorite things to add into your hot chocolate to make it just that much better, you can tell us over at our Discord server at GonnaGeek.com/Discord.
And remember, Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. is a proud member of the GonnaGeek.com network.
An exciting week. We have news for the first time in a while. We have this season 2, episode 4 episode of Loki that is, we're going to talk about it. We need to talk about it. I need my therapy. So you guys ready to get into it?
Yes.
I have needed this so bad.
Loki Season 2, Episode 4, Heart of the TVA, premiered on Disney Plus on October 26th, 2023. Michelle, there has to be some write-up somewhere that tells us what happened in this episode in terms of a summary.
That would be Disney Plus. Heart of the TVA. The TVA's loom nears catastrophic failure, but Loki, Mobius, and Sylvie have a He Who Remains variant.
All right, Chris, first thoughts.
We have now seen the face of pure evil, and it is that hard cut to black at the end of the episode.
Maybe time is the big bad?
Chris, I'm just saying, I'm just going to put this out there, that your excellent theory from last time is still on the table.
I'm taking it that whether I'm super technically correct or not, I'm functionally correct, and so that's a win.
Actually, correct. Well, here's the thing. At the end, you get the hard cut to black because the time loom is exploding and, all the timelines are going everywhere and everything, right? But before that, you had a bunch of people that were killed in terms of Miss Minutes. General Dox and her clan, I think, was mostly killed. But you had other people, including Loki himself, that was tased and dematerialized. And what happens to that stuff? It goes into the end of time, right? Right?
Yep.
No. That was the moment from the first episode.
Yes,
or the second
I know. But what happened to him at that point? We never got we just saw him appear. afterwards. We never really saw what happened. I think he went into the end of time and then came back to the point of time that we saw him in episode 2.
But then the Loki we've been talking with and everything, that's the Loki that we've assumed has come back who went. Okay, Loki gets pruned. He is supposed to have gone back into the molecule part of time. Mobius gets him out. And then we get the rest of the season.
I think Loki doesn't just go into atoms and Mobius gets him back. I think Loki goes to the end of time and then makes it out of the end of time. And that's when Mobius catches him back. I think we're going to get Alligator Loki next episode.
Why wouldn't he say that he went to the end of time?
Because his memory was wiped, just the same way that Renslayer's memory was wiped.
But his memory wasn't wiped the last time he went to the end of time.
But it was this time.
Because we know memory can be wiped now. And Renslayer also was pruned, so she's back at the end of time as well. And I still think, Chris, you might be onto something. I think she might be a He Who Remains variant.
Oh, God. I thought I had this figured out.
Exactly.
I was already confused because Ouroboros actually does mean head eating its own, a snake eating its own tail. And he actually mentions it this episode because he has Victor's Timely book, but Victor Timely has his book, but we don't know if that's the Victor Timely that inspired OB, because yes, Victor Timely gets the book on the sacred timeline, but there could be a version of Victor Timely who doesn't con people, as opposed to the one that we got who does con people. There could be variants of Victor Timely out there. And I didn't have a headache. Now I do.
Isn't it nice to not have any idea what's happening?
No idea whatsoever. Because Victor Timely could have been killed by the time radiation, right? Or he could have been pruned. I'm not sure how it works. He could have been pruned, and then he could have gone to the end of time. We're going back to the end of time because that's where Renslayer was, and she got out of there somehow, right? How did she get out of there? She had no method to get out of there.
She had a time pad with Miss Minutes.
Okay.
But now she doesn't.
Right.
But now she doesn't.
She got pruned.
Right.
She also doesn't have Miss Minutes.
Yeah.
Miss Minutes is mean. Mean. She enjoyed watching people get killed, and she told Victor Timely that he was never going to amount to anything at the very end. That's her last words. She's mean.
I know the look on her face when she saw people die.
It was pure joy.
She looked like I look when they bring out the Halloween candy at work.
Or the key lime pie for you, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I've had French soak pie, by the way, in the last week. It's good. Just saying. Good. I did notice all the automat wall of the things. I did notice this time that they all had key lime pie in it. Every
I
single
know, it
one.
was so wonderful.
No, thank you. I need sugar. My mouth is watering just by like a bad watering, like sour, like like my face is starting to pucker up. Let's not talk about the pie again.
How about instead we talk about Victor Timely, who is doing all these sciencey things, making all these sciencey advancements, and he's super amazed by a machine that makes hot chocolate.
Well, he did have to create his own refrigerator.
In a chair. He did it in a chair so you could sit on the refrigerator.
And just get the bottles out where there's cool. Yeah, he is an amazing scientist. I will say scientist, because an engineer will take the science that's known it will create stuff from it. A scientist will create ways to make things or the concept to make things, and they have to wait till engineering catches up in order for it to be applicable, sort of thing. So I will say Victor Timely is a great scientist, and that he lacks the ability to do the engineering for his concepts. I think that's pretty much proven in this whole thing. The one exception, though, being the little doohickey he had, the little MacGuffin thing, because I say it's MacGuffin because we think it's going to work, and it just gets disintegrated along with Victor Timely. I mean, the space radiation just takes them out within 2 seconds of those doors opening.
What a graphic.
It was like spaghetti. It was like all his guts was turned into spaghetti. Ugh. It was like, ugh.
Well, this is Disney, so it was something legally distinct from guts.
It literally looked like spaghetti.
It's the black hole theory.
Yeah, spaghettification.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, there's time, there's gravity. Yeah, a bunch of stuff there at the event horizon for a black hole, which, I mean, we're honestly speculating because we haven't observed what happens there. But anyway, yeah, Victor Timely gets taken out. He was the one I was worried about him being fast enough because OB kept on saying, you got to be fast. You got to be fast. And I was like, who's the fastest one? None of them are like the Flash, right? So every single one of them are going to have a problem. I didn't realize the problem was like, they shouldn't have even tried, basically, because he didn't make it 2 steps out before he was just spaghettified.
I was thinking it was going to be Sylvie being the fastest. Just everybody else either too old or too much time just spent at a desk, or in the case of Loki, those shoes were probably not very good for getting good traction to run fast.
Does Sylvie still have on heels? I don't know. I haven't seen her. Probably boots. She probably has on boots. I'm just thinking. I don't know. I haven't seen it. I don't have the foot fetish or the shoe fetish, so I don't know. I don't look at the feet.
How do we think Sylvie's going to be the hero? Sylvie still has the He Who Remains time pad, which really doesn't rely on Miss Minutes. She just watched every single one of her precious timelines blow up. We didn't see her in the final shot because it was a close-up of Loki. It's easy for her to leave before she gets roasted. What do you think she's going to do? That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking she leaves and she does something.
Where would she go? She's a master of finding places to hide, right? Remember that in season 1 where she would find catastrophic events that whatever she did isn't going to matter. So she hid out at these places. So she's good at finding places to go to. I'm just not so sure where that is. Is it the end of time? Is it a time before this whole thing happened? And I don't think you could do that because the time loom is taking every single timeline and every time within that timeline, right? So.
But the security system is off.
Yes.
So they have their magic.
Which is why, nicely done, because that's why Loki was able to get Brad to prune Renslayer.
Yep.
Well, Loki distracted Brad. Sylvie enchanted Brad.
Oh, it was Sylvie? I thought it was Loki.
No, it was Sylvie.
Yeah, it was Sylvie.
Okay. Either way, the magic was there for Brad to go prune Renslayer. Oh, yeah, that makes more sense to me. Was Sylvie wanting to prune Renslayer because she wants to kill Renslayer for pruning her and then ruining her life, basically, right? She said, in the previous episode, I've killed you 1,000 times in my head. She wants to kill Renslayer, so it would make sense that Sylvie would have Brad prune her. But also, I think Sylvie would know that pruning doesn't mean necessarily kill, that you go to the end of time.
Right.
So she's not really killing her, but She gets the satisfaction of pruning her, though. That makes total sense. The safeties are off. The magic is there. So what is she going to do? Well, I don't know. She's going to go somewhere and she's going to do something.
She's going to go get other Loki variants, including Alligator and Old Man.
It'd be fun to see those guys again.
We saw Brad again.
He did. He sided with Renslayer, though. So the terrible thing happened with Docs in the small box. And Brad just stood there. I would say he watched it. He cringed. He looked away. I don't think I could watch that happening. Ugh.
I hope they get saved.
Docs and her men?
Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully.
I'm still trying to wrap my mind around why they left that vacuum in there in the first place.
Yeah, why would you leave that in a place where it could be used against anyone? Because didn't Loki and Mobius bring it into the room to begin with, or was it already there?
Right. They brought it in to squeeze Brad, and he gave up the information.
Somebody should have taken that out.
They've been busy, though. Everyone's been busy trying to save themselves and the time loom. So
B-15 could have taken it out.
she's been busy too.
If you're going in there already, though, like, it makes total sense to me that somebody would forget it's in there and not specifically go over there just to get it. But if you're in there anyway, you know, especially that first time when Loki and Mobius brought it in the first place, they definitely should have taken it back out with them.
Yeah. But then plot.
Uh-huh. Well, because of plot, you get cool little scenes like OB and Timely wanting to autograph each other's books.
Oh, and Casey, did you see Casey with his book too? Was like, oh, I hope I'm next.
I can get both of them.
Hey, excuse me, we have more important things to get done right now. Can we geek out later?
She wasn't wrong, right? But at the same time, you're not going to get another chance at this. This is a one-way trip. So I kind of felt bad that something's going to happen to make this scene impossible in the future, right? So you're not going to get the signing of the autographs of these books. And I don't even know if the books are going to, I don't know if the TVA is going to be there or not eventually. It seems like it's on a one-way trip out to me, especially, I mean, it just exploded with the time loom there. Question, is the time loom in the time streams, is that inside the TVA, or is it like the end of time where it's the TVA looking out at these time things in interdimensional space?
B.
Okay.
I'm going to roll with it as inside the TVA's jurisdictional area.
But outside the building.
Yes.
Yes.
Like it's not a reactor, basically.
Right.
Okay. Well, that'd be kind of something to see. All the timelines of everything coming together. I mean, it's no surprise that blew up. I mean, geez. It's a lot of energy, all those places. I don't think Doctor Who could have survived that. It's a little bit too timey-wimey for Doctor Who.
Indeed.
I still need to watch that.
Doctor Who?
Yes.
Okay, Michelle, here's this question. Here's the conundrum here. Do you go back and watch all of Star Trek first or Doctor Who first?
Star Trek?
I would say Star Trek. I think it's a better story. Ultimately, it's more applicable to Americans. And with Doctor Who, you lose a lot because there's a lot that has been lost and you'd never be able to see it.
With Doctor Who, I just say start with number 9 and go from there. And then if you...
The problem with that is when you get to the Day of the Doctor, you do go back and you see some of that past stuff, that recently past stuff, you know, the made-for-TV movie that occurred before 9.
Right.
Yeah.
And then it got referential to itself. Just Star Trek.
There you go. Star Trek. If you're going to choose between the two, Star Trek.
Matt, my plan is to catch a few of the super old Doctor Who's, just like a random couple of episodes, and then roll from there. Start up with like 2005, whatever that is.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about. 9.
Okay.
So that's funny, Michelle. I knew he was going to do the exact opposite of whatever we said. So we should have said Doctor Who.
That was already my plan anyway.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you're saying that now.
Fine, then I'll go watch all of Star Trek, the entirety of Star Trek, all of the original series, and then just start over and keep watching that over and over because there's no Star Trek after that.
I'm going to have to caution you a little bit with the original series. You might want to watch it with some alcohol because
I have both ways.
Okay. All right. I mean, it was great for when it was on. It really was. It was time breaking. It was groundbreaking. You know, the first interracial kiss on TV, that sort of stuff. But it, especially with William Shatner's acting, it's like, oh my gosh.
But why do you think I want to go this way?
All that stuff. Yeah. I don't know. I will have to say that this episode of Loki, Heart of the TVA, it's good. And I think it's good, especially for a 4th episode in a Disney Plus series, because I have no idea what they're going to do. I mean, I've speculated a little bit here, but I don't know what the end game is. I still don't know if or if not it's going to be applicable to the rest of the MCU. My guess is still no. But even within the concept of the Loki series, no idea what's going to happen next. And I think that's wonderful that they were able to get to this point in Marvel property, given the fact of all the comic background and all the leaks that have occurred over time and all the, okay, but this, and this has to happen in order to move forward sort of things, because it's such a large IP. I think getting to this point and just going, wow, I'm interested in the story now because I have no idea where the story's going to go. You've told it in a way that I'm captivated by it and I have no idea. So maybe I'm just stupid or not, but I'm enjoying it.
I've been thinking more and more that this is going to be applicable to the larger MCU. At first, I was just thinking that it would be in a way that you could easily make a quick tie-in reference to in the movies and you wouldn't have to know the details. But especially after this episode, I'm thinking they might be using this as a reboot point.
But was that intent? I was thinking about that on my walk this morning with Cooper. I was thinking, is this a reboot point because they needed to reboot because they dug themselves into a hole? Or was all of phase 4 a kind of ruse to put some players on the board and they knew they were going to fix the time period of it once they got to Loki? And then they delayed Loki into 2 parts into season 2 because there was still some stuff on the board that they're like, we need to correct that. So they're waiting until now. I was thinking about that. Is it either, was this a conscious choice or is this, oh crap, we're so far gone, we need to correct?
I don't know about that one.
And that's assuming it corrects.
I don't know where this is going. Before we knew it was the Avengers against Thanos. And these phases, I don't even know what the Kang dynasty is going to even look like now. We'll talk more about that later. I guess it's difficult to talk about this episode because we know what happened, but talking about what happened because we have no idea where it's going to go. For me, it's making it difficult for me to talk about the episode.
Yeah. It's like, wow, that's amazing. What did I just see? And there's no context to it. So I don't know. I've tried to put a little bit of context to it, and I know you guys have too, but I agree. It's very difficult to talk about this episode, and it's because of the wonderful place they put it. If we were binging this this would be a no-brainer. I'm watching the next, if it's 2 a.m. and I got to go to work at 5 a.m, I'm still watching this next episode because I'm like, what happened? Sort of thing. Of course, I would never do that. But I mean, I'm just saying, if you're a binger and you get to that point, it's like, okay, I'm rolling. I need to see at least the first 5 minutes of the next episode. There's no post-credit scene. It's just big old explosion, a close-in on Loki, and then boom, cut to black.
And holding on the black for a few moments.
One thing I didn't do is I didn't go into the outro credits and try to equate each individual still with something that we've already seen. So there's a lot of stills in there that we have already seen, like Miss Minutes doing her no thing on the temp pad. That's just an example, which we saw that in this episode. There's other things that we have seen up to this episode. I haven't gone and done a comparison to see what still remains, but I still think it would be few and far between. They cut to black. It's not like we're not going to get 2 more episodes, right? We know we have 2 more episodes. So it's not like the series ends right here.
But I still have to wait a week, and it's been so long since I watched regular TV, and that sucks.
Indeed. You guys have anything else that you need to say about this episode?
I'm good.
I'm still unsure what the difference is between what Renslayer wants to have happen and what Loki's and Mobius wants to have happen. And I think that unsureness is really helping me enjoy this one.
Renslayer wants just the sacred timeline. Mobius and Loki wants to protect all the other ones.
But they also both don't want the loom to explode.
That's true.
All right, we'll see if they can get the loom to not explode, if they can go forward ahead with the loom exploding. I don't know.
And how will they bring in Spider-Gwen?
There you go. Wondering when that was going to hit. If they could fix Sharon Carter, I'm all for it. And I hope they don't fix her by killing her like they did with Director Hill. That was stupid. Secret Invasion. Ugh. If this could fix Secret Invasion, woo, Loki season 2, fix Secret Invasion. That would be awesome.
Please do.
All right. Next week, we're going to be watching episode 5. It'll be the penultimate episode of Loki. I don't think there's going to be a season 3, so we'll just call it the penultimate episode of Loki. And it's going to be a ride, I think, because the penultimate episode usually gets us to crescendo of this magnitude, but not quite this magnitude. I'm actually kind of surprised they made it here. So anyway, we're going to be watching episode 5 of season 2 next week. So if you have anything to say, catch us. Go to our Discord server at gonnageek.com/Discord. We have a channel in there for Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. There's also a spoiler channel. Use either one. Start talking to us. If it's spoiler, you probably should go into the spoiler channel and talk about it over there. All right. We do, for the first time in months, have a couple of news items that are so big that we need to talk about them. So Michelle brought one forward. You ready to talk about it, Michelle?
Yes, I am.
Here we go.
Disney moves 2024-2025 movie dates and removes 2 from the schedule. Disney is shifting some of its upcoming theatrical releases for 2024 and 2025. With the writers and actors strikes delaying a number of future projects, it was only a matter of time before the studios started making changes to their release calendars. Over the summer, Marvel Studios announced changes to its lineup of movies for 2024 and beyond. Deadpool 3 was moved up from November 8, 2024 to May 3, 2024, though that quickly changed to being taken off the calendar entirely. Captain America Brave New World moved from May 3, 2024 to August 26, 2024. Thunderbolts moved to December 20th, 2024, Blade moved to February 14th, 2025. Fantastic Four moved to May 2nd, 2025. Avengers, The Kang Dynasty has been delayed an entire year from May 2nd, 2025 to May 1st, 2026. And Avengers, Secret Wars will shift accordingly from May 1st, 2026 to May 7th, 2027. 4 years.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I didn't expect anything else coming out of the WGA and SAG-AFTRA strikes. SAG-AFTRA is still striking as we're recording this. There is that disclaimer at the beginning of this podcast, but it is not solved. And the last I saw is that the parties were barely able to come to a table to talk to each other, let alone come to some sort of agreement. That might have changed in the last day or so. But as we're recording this, I think that's where things stand. And because of that, I just don't see properties being published in theaters. Like Dune is another example that is not Marvel, that everybody was looking forward to this holiday season. And it has been pushed, I believe, to May of 2024 at this point in time, or something like that time frame. And it's just going to be a dearth of content this winter season. We did have, as the strike was happening, we had kind of a resurgence in theater where you had the Barbie movie and you had Oppenheimer. And since then, there really hasn't been anything. And Marvel does have The Marvels coming out in a couple of weeks. We do plan on covering it on this podcast. But after that, I was like, how are you going to do things? I think The Marvels is going to suffer for not being able to do rewrites and reshoots with the actors. So I'm going into The Marvels with very, very low expectations because of that. And then you take it beyond that. The biggest news in here, to me, is not necessarily the shifts back, but that Deadpool 3 is no longer on the calendar. That kind of hurts because everybody was looking forward to the fun duo of Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool and Wolverine. That would have been amazing. And now it's off the table completely, or at least off the calendar completely. They were in the middle of shoots when the strikes happened. So anyway.
I have full faith that that one will actually happen.
I hope so.
Especially with it not really being tied into the greater MCU storyline. That can just kind of happen when it happens, and it won't matter.
But what if it was tied to the timeline? What if Kevin Feige said, oh, we need this little tidbit from Wolverine to be in here?
What if it's the way that the mutants come in?
I mean, they've already referenced all of the mutant stuff, right? Which Professor X are we talking about? You know, is this the X Mansion? There's been so many, that sort of thing, right? They've already done that. Before it was the MCU, it was Fox Studios at the time.
Yeah, and it's, oh God, why are you making me think about that? Because that's just, I really want this to happen. I want all of these to happen, especially that one and Blade, because Blade has just been pushed back so much and it seems to be such a cursed thing.
One thing I would like to do, and I'm just going to openly ask you guys here on the recording. This is stuff that we normally would have shelved for later, but I'll put it out to our audience as well. Would you like us to cover Blade? We're going to have some time, right? I know we're covering X-Men Evolution, but like in between seasons of X-Men Evolution or something like that, we could fit in the Blade trilogy in there as well to just cover it before we get to the Blade that's going to be part of the MCU. So you don't have to answer now because I know I'm hitting you guys up right here, but it's something to think about if we should cover the Blade trilogy. It's not Marvel Studios, it's not the MCU, but should we, for our own edification, go back and do it? So, and I'll just throw that out there.
Just as a point of information, do I have to play the video games again?
Well, I mean, it might make for interesting content on your podcast.
Yeah, but that's from my podcast. I'm only worrying about here right now.
Well, I guess my point there, Sparky, is that since we would already be watching it. Maybe if you could get one of us to play the video game, then you could have one of us on your podcast.
That is a good point.
See? I'm full of good points today. Doesn't happen very often. All right. Anything else about the timeline of the MCU movies?
Nope.
No. All right. So another thing about Marvel timelines, by the way, is since there is no content out, Marvel decided to go ahead and authorize the official canon. I don't know how long this has been in the work, but the book is called Marvel Studios, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, an Official Timeline. I seem to recall referencing this before, so I don't think it was just out of the blue. But I caught a ScreenRant.com article earlier this week, which said the official timeline book of the Marvel Cinematic Universe confirms that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is not considered canon after Phil Coulson's death in the Avengers. One of the biggest Marvel Cinematic Universe mysteries has officially been solved as the canon status for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. gets addressed. Despite having been initially created as part of the main MCU timeline, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. never got to engage with the Marvel Studios movies, even though the ABC TV show had a direct impact in films like The Avengers Age of Ultron. Because of that notion, it has been questioned for years whether or not Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is actually canon to the MCU. In the new book, Marvel Studios, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, an Official Timeline, the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. situation is addressed as the entirety of the MCU Phase 1 through 4 are covered in immense detail. The death of Phil Coulson discusses Coulson's heroic sacrifice and death in the Avengers, but nothing of his resurrection or his team in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is mentioned or even hinted at. However, there is hope for the team in the future, as Kevin Feige gives the following quote in the book's foreword. Quote, "On the multiverse note, we recognize that there are stories, movies, and series that are canonical to Marvel, but were created by different storytellers during different periods of Marvel's history. The timeline presented in this book is specific to the MCU's sacred timeline through Phase 4. But as we move forward and dive deeper into the multiverse saga, you never know when timelines may just crash or converge. Hint, hint, spoiler alert." Unquote. And that's the end of the quote that I've taken from the ScreenRant.com article. Wow. Lots of stuff in there. First of all, as of now, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is not canon to the MCU. Is not. That is official from Marvel Studios in the book and officially from Kevin Feige. 2, they might be weaving things together. The term sacred timeline has been used in an official outside Loki Marvel publication, and dive deeper into the multiverse saga. So they're opening the door to that, and I think that's opening the door to the mutants too, as we were discussing before. So yeah, it is not canon. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is not canon. Now, the people that are advocating for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. to be canon will step up and say, but. Kevin Feige gave the thing there that it might make it canon. Okay. Still not canon.
Until he decides that it is.
Exactly. But this is his official word that it is not.
Doesn't mean we can't see some of the characters on the sacred timeline.
It'd be kind of fun, right? Quake is the big one that is always discussed in this manner. And it's not there. I talked in my interview on the other podcast a couple of weeks ago. I talked extensively on the Quake issue. And I think from Marvel's business standpoint, they have a much closer relationship to Ming-Na than they do Chloe Bennett. So I could see them bringing Ming-Na's character in. And then once you bring her character in, it opens the door to the entire team, so to speak, if they want to do it or not. But I see them bringing Ming-Na in before anybody else, just because of their relationship with her.
Which is fine, because I love her character anyway.
Me too.
All right. So if you're listening to this, you have something to say, you think I'm wrong, that's fine. I'm often wrong. Let us know, and we'll talk about it in an upcoming show. We'll probably talk about it in the very next show if you can get us the feedback fast enough. This is important. The timeline of the MCU, the movies themselves are important, and the timeline within Loki is important. I think this is an excellent week for all that information to come together with this episode of Loki and this book release. And I think, and the announcement for delaying the movies because of the strikes. I think it was well timed on Marvel's part. If I'm running Marvel PR, I could put this at a banner on my annual review. Here's my bonus, guys, this week. Last full week of October 2023, I earned my pay. Give me the bonus. Give me the bonus. Because this is wonderful how this all came together. And I don't think it was planned. I think it was all like, or no. Excuse me. If you're the head of PR, it absolutely was planned. You planned it. Good job.
Indeed.
All right, Michelle, what should we do now?
We're going to get some pie and hot chocolate and wait our way out.
As a reminder, Geeks.live is indeed sunsetting. So if you're watching us live Saturday mornings at 10 a.m., please use GonnaGeek.com/live instead. That way you will continue to see our content on the page. There's a post there that brings up where we're streaming. So go ahead and use GonnaGeek.com/live. And then it has been a great week. Thank you very much to my co-hosts. Thanks very much to the listeners and the commenters over on the Discord channel. It has been a fun discussion over there this week on the news items that we were talking about just a little bit ago.
Yes, we want to thank and appreciate our listeners, especially all of you who listen all the way to the end. You don't have to, but you do.
And if you want us to cover Blade, friend who I know I am going to go sell this to right afterwards, yell at SP online that we should look at Blade. Adam.
He who should remain anonymous, Adam. Okay, I look forward to seeing that. Until next time, I'm Director SP.
I'm Agent Michelle.
And I'm Agent Chris.
See you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.
Fantastic Four is where we get Spider-Gwen. Read the Shauna McGuire run.
Stay safe, trick-or-treating, have fun with your cosplay. Bye.
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 Thank you for listening. If you want to leave us feedback, go to GonnaGeek.com and you will find all our contact information and other shows. You can also visit legendsofshield.com where you'll find our complete archive of podcasts. The music heard on this podcast is by Kevin MacLeod, found at incompetech.com, and also artists on pond5.com and audiojungle.net. The opinions heard on this podcast are those of the individual hosts and do not represent Stargate Pioneer Productions, Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D., or Gonna Geek. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is the property of the Disney Corporation, Marvel Studios, and ABC. No infringement is intended. Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. is copyright 2013 through 2020.